To revolt. 1. To revolt, meaning to renounce allegiance to a language that stuffed mouths with sharp cane and raw cotton, seasonal crops for perpetual suffocation, bodies recrystallized and distilled, mouths fibrous and bagasse dry. Meaning, your scars are the only things allowed to speak when spoken to. The skin of those before you is riddled with speaking. Scars are untranslatable, inflexible, and unforgiving. Scars been colonizing bodies to the 3rd and 4th generation. As slowly as salt clots the blood, as slowly as ripped skin sutures itself into plosives and crisp TH sounds. Your new language is protective, covering your silence, holding black skin to account. 2. To renounce, which is to say, to give up. To refuse to obey tight kerning on pages, written with blood and metal and malformed morals. The scars are a many-tongued spirit. Scars resist from the shadow of a countless diaries and the Daily Mail, squatting in ink. Sullen, maroon, runaway, defiant, disobedient, dangerous, thug, terrorist, lazy, angry. It has taken centuries for our scars to master audio. We could not be heard unless someone white saw it happen, until pain persisted into pixel and footage. If a ship dumps 1,000 bodies overboard in a forest of human trafficking, did they ever make a sound? Can scars hear instructions over the ocean? Which whiplash spells genocide? 3. To obey, to conform, to mind how you are guided. If an arm is removed for unsatisfactory labor, its pink maw instructs the remaining arm in a careful sifting of murderous herbs. If a foot is chopped off, its absence keeps a smooth, striding mind. As the man who raped your mother to produce a higher quality product, and raped your father to break his mind, and raped your sister/party favor, also rapes you, allow the blistering to cool into full thickness. There will be very little pain on the healed flesh when he chokes on old age in front of you. 4. To mind, meaning to comply with, to attend to the knee in another man's throat and compel hot asphalt, remains of other scarred ones, to burn his cold body as fuel for weeks and weeks of reminding ourselves of our price and our pricelessness. Although breaking the law to demand justice offends people enough to keep killing us. 5. To comply, to submit to survival. So this poem was actually kind of difficult for me to write, even though I have been occupied and obsessed, you would say, with social justice, Black consciousness for a very long time, from my teens. But the way that I found into writing it was through scars, which I am also currently obsessed with, and the fact that all these things have happened for so long that they're happening now. They happened umpteen generations ago, from the time that people were enslaved. And the only thing that's been constant has been the fact that it leaves scars on you. If it's not physical scars, it's mental scars, it's emotional scars. You know, Black people are just walking around with a lot of scars on the inside and the outside, from being objectified, being dehumanized, being enslaved in many different ways. So that's the way that I found into the poem, and it's still a work in progress. It's probably going to change a lot in the next coming months, but I think this first draft kind of brings together most of what I wanted to say about the issue.
The title of my first piece is Independence. Only the crackle of cane fields and the cutlass slashing the side of a 4-year-old's cheek in the cocoa estate offered partial beauty to the place I call home. Canadians sent us their royal banks. The dead ends of wigs in England fell on our laws. British Petroleum, Texaco and Shell dug for oil and dug out my father's eye. The second poem I have goes to March to Caroni, the 12th of March, 1970. The African, like the Indian, forgets the cutter to his side is his laborer. The laborer forgets what the African and Indian remembers. They are niggers and coolies of ambition. Both bicker about the roof and fields the rain lands on. Both chant their ignorance of seasons and settlement. And I alone cannot clear the path, the rocks of historical shame. Gunmen of disunity in bushes. The smoke still in the air from houses we set on fire. I lock arms and form the banner of a cause, march further down the road past the fiction of our scorn, until tin camp lights have the last say in the night. Funeral, the 9th of April 1970, for Basil Davis. Nothing but silence, nothing to bid farewell to, nothing dressed in black but their torched skin in the afternoon sun. Grief marched on expanded pavements. Dashikis displayed colors of dreams. Students slung slogans uniformed in skirts and khaki pants. Women with babies on the breast nursed revolution. From Port of Spain to Sawa, they paraded their historical suffering, carved messages in every rum bottle cork, made a martyr of a comrade, that we may have life, because death no longer separated us from freedom. And this is the final poem in my reflections on the Black Power Revolution of 1970. It's dedicated to Beverly Jones. The poem's title is North, the 13th of September, 1973. The consolation of Guevara and his unit's footprints left a trail upon the night. Machine guns turned all of this nocturnal promise to shooting secrets of the state. From ambush to ambush, the assassinated September's cause, dense and uncharted as a forest, leaving corpses in the hill, mouths open to the morning air, stars falling from the eye. Next. I have some reflections on the experiences of les nègres in the French Caribbean. L'étudiant noir. You spoke in one tongue first, shifting all your way to their civilization. It was sufficient to be French in Martinique until you went to Paris. How quick they were to remind you the perfume of liberté could not sweeten revolution and Louverture's garments. The only tributes they had to your tribe, amnesic histories flaunting baguettes, and wars against dark-skinned humanity for fertile lands and exotic fruit. Because this mind echoes the hymns of their madness, the black body pauses, halts, stammers in assault. Those rites made you publish your conscience, great against the divinity of their cathedrals and cities. You penned Africa into being, finding hope and home in the mouth of her rivers, basin of ancestral stars, the good earth of Africa, where children inherit her vast forests in the skin, whether or not the islands sing her song and taste her rain. Le pays des revenants. And we cue the small girls in white dresses to walk, swinging old-fashioned baskets to church, grind the coffee on the street side for them, to smell the spoils of plantation, commission the nation to smile, black bodies ready to assist, give direction. Even yellow birds on pastures are trained to chirp in a Frenchman's French. Island of flowers, bending over backwards to appear modern, colony doing just fine, unchanging like the gentle face of a first true love. We do not live in that paradise they discover over and over again. The economy attracts white repetitions for tropical landscapes, packaged memories of good Creoles with wavy hair, and Negrions waltzing in a spiritualized poverty. As time goes by, it would seem, our surrender of hills and open hatred confirm a role positive, perfectly cheap observation on tours to blind them from their own barbarity. And these last two poems reflect on the situation on blacks in what we refer to as Latin America. Pizarro yawned with a poisoned tongue, lifting the sails of boats around him, beating into us the rhythm of chains, archbacks through el modo de producción esclavista, America's black children, fugitives of the night, running through geographies widened in sleep, each nigger stripped of their history, each history robbed of their afternoon, each afternoon filled with bitterness and death. They would have us think slavery had befallen our lives and our poverty something sweet enough to sing along to, simplified. When we were more than great books written overseas, the indignant diaries of priests, man's gift to queens, grown tired of jewels, and desire cruelly transfigured into sugar and pearl countries. And the last poem is for a famous Spaniard at the bottom of Port of Spain, Columbus Square. Embassies of Spain still press lands on the New World to utter the name of their God. The admiral stands tall in the capital city, colonial myth looking on poverty's timelessness. As I write, babies battle with congested lungs in the ghetto. So all of this talk of freedom was meant to free whose chest? For I have seen the hungry rise with the unchained, street dogs scavenging bones, thrown to the roadside near the fountain of barbarity. I have watched none of it pause in this half promise of independence, steeped in the romance of discoveries and conquistadors. This short series of poems I delivered was centered around the idea of blackness and how it is understood, I think, in the Caribbean and the Americas. First, I was interested in looking specifically at the Black Power Revolution in Trinidad and Tobago in 1970, and in 2020 means we are in the 50th anniversary of that revolution. And we are in a moment now where the movement for the dignity of black life throughout the world has gripped the imagination of many. It has forced us to contend with issues of not just race, but how do we create material outcomes for racial justice? And naturally, if we think about the situation of black power in Trinidad and Tobago, we have to think about interracial solidarity, fundamentally between persons who are descendants of Africans and descendants of Indians. And expanding my lens, because I never just read up on one particular island's history, I wanted to understand blackness as it relates to persons in the Antilles, in the French, the Antillean countries, the Francophone countries here that we have, and how does the prospect of independence look like? What does revolution mean in that space? How do I read Cesar as I do and not just reject his negritude, but understand what does a negritude look like with the type of politics I identify with more, perhaps more of a Conde. So bringing that lens upon the work and giving respect to the people who came before me was important. And naturally, that turn to Latin America is important. One of the largest populations of African people outside of Africa is in Latin America. And understanding what does the Spanish colonial conquest, what does the development of a mestizo culture do to exclude black people, understanding the plight of Afro-Peruvians are equally important. So I see this as a project of the Black Americas and understanding us as this creation of the new world, an Atlantic economy, and liberating each other in that same process. Right?
Meeting Beverly Jones. January 9th, 2020. Dear Father, I was surprised to get your letter today. I was surprised to get your letter, period. First, I didn't know people still wrote letters on paper with pens, put them in envelopes, and mailed them to other people. Who does that? And why? Second, I thought you were a figment of my mother's imagination or a really impressive lie she told once and stuck to for the rest of her life. I don't know why you're writing me now. Yours, I guess, Benicia. January 29th, 2020. Dear Dad, it feels weird to call you that. I've never had a dad before. I live with a single mom, like most of my friends. None of us call our fathers dad. Mostly we pretend our fathers don't exist. Hashtag ghosted, hashtag epic fail. TBQH, I'd prefer to text. Why are you off the grid? Are you some kind of hipster? Hashtag hilarious. You asked, so I'm 16 obvi, because it was 16 and something years ago that you did the smash and dash with my mother. Hashtag classy, hashtag peak Caribbean masculinity. Yes, I'm a sarcastic bastard. See what I did there? 2, I live with her in an apartment in Belmont. That's close to the Queen's Park Savannah where you played mass. You and Bernie had your thing there. She told me all about it. Hashtag you, I cannot, again, you. Moving along. 3, I'm in Form 5 at St. Anne's Convent. It's a prestige school. My neighbor Jody, hashtag heart eyes, says it was founded by white Catholic foreigners for their white Catholic children. The savage natives inherited the convent after independence. What you wrote about your boy days in Barbados? Hashtag exactly. Number 4, I want to be a lawyer, though God knows why or how. I don't know if she told you in her letters, but Bernadette's a waitress. She barely makes enough money for rent. I'm going to have to get a job in July. Anyway, Bernie needs me to go to the grocery and cook dinner, and I also have a project to finish for history. Yours, are we absolutely sure? Benicia. February 21, 2020. Dear sperm donor, thanks for the pics. I have your face and my grandfather's eyes, my grandmother's smile, and my mother's nothing. I secretly used to think I was adopted. Don't tell her that. You asked why I'm interested in law? I don't really know. I just always had this passion for justice. I think I want to be a judge one day. Minus the robes. IDK where they were going with that, but no, just no. What's going on? It's carnival, my favorite time. Hashtag carnival baby, hashtag duh. Bernie always plays mass, and I was going to play with her for the first time in an adult band. She took a hand in a susu for our costume since last year, But she said with the pandemic, it isn't safe. What pandemic? I asked her. Nobody in Trinidad cares about coronavirus. It have mass to play. Bernadette sold the costumes today and paid for my ticket to the school fundraising carnival fete. Good thing she did, because I'm not sure where we were going to find $1,000 otherwise. The government pays only half of what it costs to run the school. Rich kids donate. Poor kids like me can't. Hence fundraisers. Not playing mass hashtag sucks, but yay, Mommy is going to let me go to the fete with Jody. Hashtag whining specialist. Hashtag soca is life. BTW, Jody is my girlfriend. Yours, unless you change your mind about your homo daughter, Benicia. March 9, 2020. Dear Ghost, school is closed because of COVID-19. I don't know what the big deal is about a virus. I don't know what will happen now. I have exams in May. The weirdest thing happened. Jody's grandfather was arguing with these old men by the corner today. He asked me if I knew who Beverly Jones was. IDK, I said. He got really mad. He said she was an unsung hero of the revolution. What revolution? I asked. He started to quarrel about how young people don't know nothing about their history, how this country does eat up little children, how nothing ain't changed since 1970 and black hen chicken still eating the bread that the devil need. It was hashtag a lot, TBQH. He gave me a photocopy of some essay to read. What is it with you old people and paper? Couldn't he just give me the website? Jody's granddad sits in front of the rum shop, drinking rum and looking sad all day. I never talk to him. He's dangerous, Bernie says. She calls him the terrorist. He doesn't look dangerous to me, just old. Jody lives with him and she says he's normal. A police jeep drove past us real slow. He grabbed my hand and said something about the Burroughs and Flying Squad, I think. I escaped and came home to find your letter. I'll read the essay later. COVID-19 is kind of scary. Please keep safe. You're still my father. Hashtag slight hate. Yours, in good health, I hope, Benicia. April 18th, 2020. Dear Dad, thanks for the money. The restaurant closed, so Mommy lost her job. The government promised grant money, but it hasn't come yet. I don't know how we're going to survive TBQH. Please send more when you can. The landlord says we still have to pay the rent. Doesn't he know it's a pandemic? Benicia. April 20th, 2020. Something horrible happened. I can't tell Mommy. Please don't tell her. I don't even know how to say it out loud, but I have to tell somebody. Last night, I tried to go by Jody to Lime. I haven't been out of the house since school closed and I was so bored. Mommy sleeps all the time. Jody lives right there, a few houses down. I walk to her house all the time and it's always safe. Except last night. The street was empty. The whole country is on lockdown and nobody's supposed to be out after 7 without a good reason. At first, when I saw the police jeep driving next to me, I thought they were going to tell me to go back home. Instead, they offered me a drop. I couldn't see their faces, even under the bright blue lights. They were all wearing masks. They didn't take me home. They took me to the lookout on the Lady Young Road. There were no cars and no people anywhere. I can't write what happened next. They made me do things. not with them, just by myself. But they watched and they laughed and they had their guns in their hands, and I thought they would shoot me if I didn't do what they said, so I did what they wanted. And then they kicked me out of the car naked. They threw my clothes at me. I got dressed really fast and ran home. I was crying. It was a long way. How could police, who are supposed to protect me, do this horrible thing? What kind of awful place is this? Don't I have rights? They're monsters. If I report it, they'll say I never saw their faces. And who would I report it to? The Belmont police? I'm still crying. I hate them. Benicia. May 25th, 2020. Dad, why don't you have a phone like a normal person in DC? What kind of weird life do you live in America? Are you like in jail or something? Hashtag shady AF. How do I feel? Stink. Like rubbish they threw out on the road for rats and cockroaches to crawl over. I know it's not my fault. You don't have to tell me that. It's their fault. And it makes me, I don't know, like I have all this hate inside me bubbling up all the time. It makes me want to throw up. How could they do that to me? How can they live with themselves? Benicia. May 25th, 2020. Later. Dear Dad, I know, 2 letters in one day, but I'm excited. Remember the essay the old man gave me? I just read it. Did you know about Beverly Jones? Hashtag Shiro, hashtag Awesometastic. In the 1970s, there was this Black Power revolution in Trinidad. Black people did all kinds of things to get the white people and the government to give us our rights. They marched in the streets and threw paint on a statue in the cathedral, and they had strikes, hashtag wild. Beverly was a convent girl like me. She got involved with this group, the National Union of Freedom Fighters. They called themselves NUF. They bombed a police station, hashtag totes jelly. What I want to know is, how come they never taught us this in history? Hashtag cover up, hashtag what is the truth? Remember Jody's grandfather? Now I know what he said. He was talking about Randolph Burroughs, a disgusting, horrible chief of police from the 70s. The flying squad was his special team to kill people. NUF hid in the northern range. Remember the hills? You can see them from anywhere in Trinidad. Beverly lived in a camp up there, deep in the bush, in between running out to rob banks and kill policemen and whatnot. They said they were willing to, quote, die in order to achieve true liberation. That's a direct quote. The flying squad hunted them down like animals. They shot Beverly Jones in the face. They murdered her. She was 17. It makes me even angrier. She had a bunch of random stuff in her bag when they killed her. She had a cocoa tin of gelignite, 2 feet of fuse wire, a bag of sugar, split peas and chewing gum, socks, wash rags, shoe polish, condensed milk, plasters, an empty file with penicillin residue, ointments, and toothbrushes. I had to look up gelignite. She wasn't playing, yo. That's literally bomb. Hashtag like a boss, hashtag bad bitch, hashtag RIP, hashtag heartbroken. She died with a gun in her hand. After what police did to me, I understand why. I'm going to pack a bag too. Yours in Revolution, Benicia. Quotations are taken from W. Chris Johnson's essay, Guerrilla Ganja Gun Girls, Policing Black Revolutionaries from Notting Hill to Laventille, published in Gender and History, Volume 26, Number 3, November 2014, pages 661 to 787. This story, I think Beverly sent it. In February, I was doing work with a small, like a micro band basically for Carnival. And one of the things that they do is every year they have a panel discussion. And the theme of the band this year was remembering Beverly Jones. And in order to put the panel discussion together, I did a lot of research on the February Revolution, Black Power, and that whole movement around the time. And I found this essay that was just so evocative and so powerful. And I immediately understood who this girl was. And when the opportunity came and I got the commission to write this story, I didn't know what I wanted to write, but I knew I wanted to include that list. And I wanted to quote from that essay because it's a great essay. Everybody should read it. Like, it should be required reading in schools. I don't know who will read this story, but I hope that it will give them an entry point into which they can learn more about this period of our history, which we don't talk about and which is not taught in schools, and which seems like some kind of weird, dirty secret in our history. And I think it's a moment of power. And I particularly, in doing the edit of the story, I went back and I made her last letter dated the day of the George Floyd incident, because I found that there was such a parallel between what happens to our young people with the police in Trinidad. She's not the only one that this kind of thing happened to. And what happened in the United States with the Black Lives Matter movement, and how we in Trinidad in turn then responded to it. So yeah, all of that is folded into this tiny little story, and I hope you enjoyed it.
Revolution time. Revolution time is a turn, and a turn is a crisis. And maybe how you spell crisis is where Christ is. Maybe not. Revolution time is a turn about a time not taken, because taken for granted, for given. Were you taken through revolution time word search, looking for love, L-O-V-E? Were you given evil when you wanted to L-I-V-E, live? Revolution is not a spell. Time is now. Time is devalued. Time is monetized, misgendered, is nothing if not now. Time is revolution you don't see. Revolution time happening inside. You can't tell by testing if someone is revolution positive. 1/32 revolution. Who is turning inwardly? The man cutting grass turns into a voter. The child from Venezuela turns into a moco. The lady squatting down the road, you call her crazy. Then you turn a little inward and call her hungry. Take the time to turn and call her family. Call her family. I am wrong in every structure I take down. Everything we can sing to hope walls fall. We sing colonially. Also this. Click off. Also that. Click off. Revolution time is reflection and reflex action, refusing to react. Revolution time when you love to kill your neighbor, but you click off. Revolution time is thinking again. Think again. The inspiration for this piece was first of all negative. Although I was in Trinidad during the insurrection and I have been in other places I don't want to talk about, I have not so far been directly involved in what people commonly think of as a revolution, which means shooting. Of course, if a revolution happens, you can shoot somebody you don't like because they stole something from you or kicked you in class. You don't necessarily shoot people for the purest political motives. So what I am interested in is the internal revolution, which is what we have to achieve individually, systemically, and structurally. The revolution which is inward is also already happening. You never know when it is happening in yourself right now. Thank you to the Bocas Lit Fest. If I die before next year, I will see you as a zombie. Stay well.